Hello all. I was using this Friedrich ERN razor the other day, and I thought the edge was starting to go off, so I checked when I last honed this, and that was back in April of 2024. So this is due for a honing. I don't remember what edge it has on it, but we're going to kill that edge because today I'm going to bring the edge back from nothing using the Dilucot process. So let me take the old edge off of here. And we should now be bouncing off of the packing peanut. So the edge is gone, and I'm just going to do a Dilucot to bring this back. I'll finish on baby oil, which thanks to the Cajun blade is now my favorite finishing method on cauticles. And I thought I'd today talk a little bit, while I'm doing this, talk a little bit about slurries and how they work. And maybe that's of interest. I mean, you see a lot of us build slurries like I'm doing now, and then we go and use them. And you know, well, why do we build thick slurries? Why do we build thin slurries? And in particular, what does all this diluting do for you? And so I thought I'd do a quick talk about that without going into any science, trying to use examples that draw from your common sense. By now, anybody who started this video has probably left, so I'll just be able to continue in my normal rambling manner. Now, I've built a pretty slick slurry here, and we'll talk about why that is as we talk about how slurries work. So, a slurry. So a slurry is really just raising particles. In this case, the abrasive in the caudicle is a garnet, and so I've scratched some garnets from the surface of this stone to mix with the water that I put on top, and that's a slurry. So it's a floating mass of garnets in water. And you know, that is not too different from what you see in a synthetic stone. Here, I have a mass of, in this case, the abrasive is aluminum oxide. So I have aluminum oxide not suspended in water, but held by a binder on the stone. And the size, this is a 500, so this has large particles of aluminum oxide, and it's a coarse stone, so those large particles are like shovels which remove material from, in this case, a razor, a large amount. They remove a large amount of material at a time. Here is a 16,000 grit stone that uses the same, here's a 16,000 grit stone that uses the same aluminum oxide abrasive, but the particles are much smaller. And because of that, each pass of the razor on this stone, those small particles again act like shovels, but they're tiny shovels. And they remove little bits of material with each pass. And so the reason we use multiple stones in a progression in synthetic is to calibrate the amount of work that the stone does based upon the amount that we need to do in shaping the bevel. If I'm getting towards the end, and all I really want to do is put that last final refinement polish on the edge, then I'm going to use this 16K stone. But if I have real reshaping to do, and I have to get a nick out of the edge, the 16K will take forever to do that, because again, it's not removing material quickly. On the other hand, the 500 is a perfect fit for that, because it's the big shovels in this abrasive will act quickly to do that repair and do that reshaping. Okay, so how does that relate to slurry? Well, as I mentioned, the abrasive in this is garnet, and typically in a, nature formed this, man formed this, but there's a mix of garnet particles here inside, mix of size and garnet particles here, and generally speaking, that variation in size is wider than you would get with a man-made stone. But they're not super wide. I mean, the way these stones are chosen is for them to be suitable for a particular razor sharpening, in this case, purpose. So I have a slurry of garnets. They vary in size, and how do they work? Well, I have a thick slurry like this. As I move the razor through the slurry, I have edge bias on the edge, so I'm pressing down on the surface of the stone, and I'm trapping some of this slurry each time I do this. And as I trap that slurry, the slurry itself is forming sort of a chaotic pattern of hills and valleys, clumps. You can think of it in terms of clumps of garnets that approximate larger pieces of garnet. If I thin this slurry down, then those chaotic patterns don't have the ability to form the height and valleys of garnets, and so they become shallower. Another way to think about this is with sandpaper. I like red for some reason. So here's a very, very coarse piece of sandpaper. The thick slurry will act as it clumps, and as I push, as I roll onto the slurry, I'm trapping that slurry into being more like the abrasive particles on this piece of sandpaper. As I thin the slurry out, then again the height and also density of the slurry will more approximate a finer sandpaper. Now, slurries are pretty inefficient, and the reason for that is, even though I'm trapping some and moving along here, I'm moving slurry. So the energy that I would put into sliding the razor across this sandpaper, that energy would all go into removing material, because the abrasive is fixed. Here, I'm removing material, but some of the energy is going towards moving the slurry. Another aspect of slurry that you don't get with sandpaper is that not only am I trapping slurry and moving the edge across it, I'm also moving the edge through it. and the flow of the slurry under and across the edge, as I mentioned, is kind of chaotic, and that creates that finish, that that sort of nonlinear chaotic finish that you see in razor edges that are formed with a slurry, especially on these kinds, on natural stones. So you have varying size pieces, and then the slurries. As I move here, there's right at the apex, that slurry is moving in various directions, out and under and over the edge. So there's now one person left watching this, so I'm going to get onto this honing in more seriousness. I think I'm going to start again with fresh slurry and do the Dilucot. I rinsed this off, but I don't want a lot of water on the surface, because as you saw, I had a nice thick slurry to help me get going on taking a blunt edge to a refined edge. And what we're going to be doing in the Dilucot process by thinning this slurry out is the same thing that we do with the sequence of synthetic stones. We're going to be taking it from a coarser, effectively a coarser grit, formed in this case by garnets, to a finer grit, formed in this case by garnets. And then finally, when we get to the surface of the stone itself, which first time I'll do this on water, that will be the finest that this stone can, the finest level of refinement that this stone can give me. As I move to baby oil, I'm going to push that by trying to reduce the texture of the surface to make it flatter, effectively, and therefore remove less material. So hopefully some of that made sense. Makes sense to me, but you know how that goes. Okay, so let's get on this in earnest. This coticals in general, and this one in particular, tend to be slower. So the way to compensate for that is to use pressure, which I'm doing now. I can see it's not showing up yet probably in the camera, but I can see a slight amount of graying starting to happen. Now, what got me started on this, I think I mentioned, is a video that Eric made, second of two parts, where he's honing a stainless steel razor, Henkel's. And I was really impressed by that video. He shows the traditional methods of doing Dilucot, the business of taking a finger and putting a dab of water onto the surface, and I just did that. So that in some measure that took my initial level of abrasion and refined it slightly by thinning the slurry, as I just mentioned. Now and I thought this was a very good method. He uses counting between thinning. So he has a method of counting, a certain number of strokes, and then thinning the slurry, and then counting a certain number of strokes, and then thinning the slurry. And I think that's a real good method, because it ensures that you're doing the proper work, the proper amount of work at each stage in your Dilucot process. What I'm going to do is guess. First of all, I'm already starting to feel the edge of the razor on the stone differently. Now some of that is because the slurry is thickening a little bit, but it's also, I think, because I'm refining the edge, and there's an apex forming. So I'm going to check that. Where's my towel? Here it is. So now I'm going to check that. Here's my towel. Do a quick check. And yes, I have an apex already. So I went from nothing to a very good apex that's formed evenly across the whole edge. So now I can thin. Now, what's the advantage of thinning a fingertip at a time? Well, the advantage is, again, similar to going in small steps in refinement with, or reasonable steps in refinement with a synthetic stone. If I started at 500K, I'd probably go to 2K, and then 4K, and then 8K. And why would I make all those steps? Well, again, using the sandpaper model, if I did all my work with this sandpaper and then jump to something like 2000 grit, this is 40 grit sandpaper. So if I jump from 40 grit sandpaper to 2000 grit sandpaper, and I needed to remove the scratches made by 40 grit, it's going to take forever. So if I do that in steps, I'm using more sandpaper, more types of sandpaper, grits of sandpaper, but it's going to take me less time. And that's the idea here. If I need to refine the thick scratch pattern created by this slurry, and I add a little bit of water, now I have effectively created a finer grit sandpaper. Hopefully that makes sense. And as with now that I know I have a good apex formed, I can move my way through this dilution more quickly. What I'm doing here now, and I'm only using half strokes, and I'll talk about that in a minute. What I'm doing now is kind of like doing a rough-in in carpentry. I've got the, I have the basic form done, and now I'm adding some structure that will allow me to refine more easily. Okay. Let's refine. So now I'm effectively moving to my next stone. I'm going to add a little more. Now I'm moving to my next stone. What if you add too much? What if you thin the slurry too much? Well, two choices. Just take more time. If you have a thinner slurry than you need, it's still an abrasive. Just, you know, spend a little bit more time on it. Or thicken it up. Or remove the slurry you have and create a new one of the consistency that you think you want. It's not, you know, this isn't an exact science. None of this is particularly precise, and you're gonna, you know, you're gonna find your own way of doing it. And so long as you get a resulting edge that you enjoy shaving with, then you've done it correctly. I'm doing a little bit of edge cleaning here because I'm about to test again. And this is the way I do this is quite different. Now that's already at push into the cloud. So my geometric, this is already pushing into the cloud. So the geometry that I want for this edge is just where it wants to be. I'm going to now just that geometry will stay. I'm going to so I just did a dilution, and I'm going to do the rest of this with alternating strokes, which unfortunately on this short stone is going to be slow. But I have the geometry I want. Now what I'm really doing is texturing the edge. Texturing the edge, the bevels and the apex. There'll be a certain amount of refinement here, and that refinement is really being limited by the size of the garnets in this stone. But the stone has already produced a great edge. So now I'm really giving, this is going to give it that conical feel. Okay, let's do another. Now this is not actually how I normally do this. I normally do I normally dip with the blade. I'll put the water here and I'll just dip with the blade. Do this. You can't see. That's exactly why I didn't do it. If it were here, I'd be dipping with the blade like this. So the spoon is the little measuring spoon is just something I did today to make it more obvious what I'm doing. And Eric showed both the finger dipping method and the razor blade dipping method. Okay, I think one more of these. This may be a longer video than I had hoped. Sorry about that, especially because I should practice these explanations, but I didn't. Yeah, it's already 24 minutes. All right, let's check and then go probably just to straight water and then to, oh, sorry. Yeah, there we are. Okay, that is basically silent. Really nice across the whole edge. So this is already a shaving edge for sure. So let's get some Let's take a few passes on water and then we'll go to oil. Wow. I say wow because it's already, I mean, even on that first draw, and I have very little water here. Let's spin the stone. I would like to see more. So this may be where you see me pause the video. I would like to see a little bit better. The edge is testing really well, but I would like to see a little better flow over the edge. There we go. You can have too much water in terms of this testing. There we are. What's bothering me is not so much the most of the blade. As usual, I'm obsessing about the heel section. All right, so that's looking very nice to me. I'm doing finally doing some X strokes. Okay. Now let's go to a little bit of oil. Getting the water, I just was rubbing the water off with my hand. Try to get this back on so it's reasonably straight. There we are. I have a huge bottle of baby oil here. That's a lot more than I need. There we go, starting to emulsify with the layer of water that was there. I have towels. I could have done a better job of this. All I'm doing now is what I normally talk about. I'm just really concentrating on the feel, making sure that the edge feels the same way in this direction as it does in this direction, and in this direction I'm feeling a slight difference. Everything's getting better as the oil emulsifies with the thin layer of water that was there. All right, let's see where we are. Basically almost falling in to the packing peanut. Yeah, it's almost falling into the packing peanut. I think I'd say the toe, which I have not done much work on. The toe could use a little. I did all that just by, when does it feel right? This is why the making, and you almost can't overdo it with cauticles, so you can simply overdo it, and you'll probably get to where you want to get. So there's real good. Oh, sorry. Yeah, so that's just falling. It's a little not quite right at the very toe. But I'm going to pause, do a little bit more work on the toe, but not much. Maybe 10 seconds more, 20 seconds more work on the toe. Then I'm going to strop, take an image, and get back to you. Okay, we're done. The microscope video really shows the effect of the last session on oil. It smooths everything out very much. Edge condition is really excellent everywhere from heel to toe. Better at the center, as you saw. I put a little bit more attention to getting pressure at the center, and that paid dividends. Here's where we are. Completely, easily pushing in to the packing peanut. Next step for this razor is to see what it shaves like. That's where the rubber meets the road, so to speak. Thank you for staying with me. Sorry for such a long video, but again, appreciate it, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.